Hello fellow Movie Crusaders, welcome to another episode of Sean's Movie Crusades. My name's Sean Wasserkrug, and today we're going to be reviewing the zombie action comedy, Little Monsters. Now this movie was released in select theaters, but for everyone on October 11th it was released on Hulu, so for anyone who is interested in this film, all you gotta do is get on Hulu and you can watch it right away. Now I had heard about this movie for a few months now because it was popping up on festivals and stuff like that, and I actually heard a good word of mouth going around on this film. Now, in terms of cast, obviously Lupita Nyong'o has been killing it lately, whether it be last year's Black Panther or this year's one of my top 10 films of 2019 so far in Us. Lupita Nyong'o is definitely one of the best female actresses out there today, so her taking on this kind of zombie comedy kind of feel was definitely a unique choice for her, something I wasn't expecting her to do, but was also very intrigued seeing her going and doing a film like this. And then of course you got Josh Gad, who's a character in of himself, you know, obviously doing something in between the Frozen films. But yeah, it was definitely an interesting approach to a zombie film than we have seen lately. So yeah, and then like I said, good word of mouth coming out of the movie festivals that it debuted at. But I was a little kind of not disappointed or worried, but kind of curious as to why this wasn't getting a wide release and why it was going directly to Hulu. So that was kind of a little bit of a warning to me to kind of heed my expectations a little bit. But yeah, let's see if it turned over to a positive or to a negative, and jump on into this review. So the plot of Little Monsters, this movie takes place in Australia, I believe, and it follows the main character of Dave, played by Alexander England. Dave is basically, let's face it, he's a douchebag. He's a very unlikable character, at least for the first half of the film. Kind of acts a little bit like, I would say, Jack Black's character in School of Rock, but not likable, at least for the first half of the film. He's living with his sister after going through a very bad breakup, which opens the film to him and his girlfriend for the first 5 minutes just screaming at each other, which to me was not the best way to start this film. But anyway, it's used for the building blocks of Dave's character. But yeah, he's living on his sister's couch with her and her 5-year-old Felix, and basically he is told that he needs help around more if he wants to stay there. So Dave takes Felix to school. Felix is 5, if I hadn't said that already, and he meets Felix's teacher, Miss Caroline, played by Lupita Nyong'o. Naturally, Dave is attracted to her and wants to develop a relationship with her. So like most people who have a crush on a teacher, he decides to basically become a volunteer for the latest field trip. They go to a kind of like a petting zoo kind of place, and then there's also Josh Gad, who plays a child show host, kind of like a Blue's Clues, Mr. Rogers type character, where he's beloved by children everywhere, does stupid, annoying voices and dances and stuff like that. And on this field trip, Josh Gad's actually shooting an episode there. And while this is going on, there is a army base nearby where they are doing test subjects of raising the dead back to life, and thus, like most zombie films, the zombies take over the base and break out, and they end up going straight to the petting zoo farm that Lupita and her children are, and it basically becomes an act of survival between Dave, Josh Gad's character, who goes by Teddy McGiggle, and of course Miss Caroline, played by Lupita Nyong'o, and then obviously while trying to keep themselves safe, also trying to keep this class full of 5-year-olds safe as well, and not letting them really know the horrors that is going on. They try to basically play it off as like it's a game. And that's kind of the plot of Little Monsters. I can't really get a little more detail into that. But yeah, so what works with Little Monsters? first off, Lupita Nyong'o, fantastic in the film. She does a great job of playing kind of like the I guess it would be kindergarten because they're 5-year-olds, like kindergarten, first grade kind of teacher. She does a good job of playing that kind of teacher storyline, but then also, when needed to, bringing in that badass character that we know so well in previous films. She's definitely the most likable character in the film, besides Dave's nephew, Felix, played by Diesel Laturica. I'm probably saying that wrong. But yeah, those two are definitely the most likable characters. Diesel, playing Felix, whenever he talks on screen, he's a very likable kid. And his line delivery is actually very good, and he's very adorable. So anytime Felix talks, it's definitely a highlight. And of course, Lupita does a fantastic job. When this movie is doing what it needs to do in terms of a zombie film, it works very, very well. When they try to do humor the proper way, it also works very well. There are some amusing moments in the film. When the film does get to a dreadful place in certain parts, it does work really well. There are just certain things elsewhere in the film that don't quite match or quite work as well. But when the movie is doing what it needs to do, such as developing the character of Dave, like I said, Dave is a very, very unlikable character for the first half of the film. But once the Dave character kind of goes through this one event and he starts to kind of turn over a new leaf, Dave is actually a very likable character played by Alexander England. And while he really did a good job of making me dislike him for the first half, but then actually enjoy his character by the end of the film. I don't believe his character would have done that drastic of a character change based off of that event that happened, but that's the way that the script went. But yeah, like I said, when the movie is doing what it needs to do, in a sense, it works very well, but there are certain things that it does do that does not work very well at all. So we'll go ahead and go into the what does not work. And kind of like what I said earlier, before Dave makes his character change, which is a drastic character change, literally Lupita Nyong'o's Miss Caroline and Felix are the only things I really like about the story. Or, it's just like the zombie, it's a generic zombie storyline, there's nothing real breaking of the mold about it. Army base, the zombies break free. The army base looks like it's run by a bunch of idiots. Everyone basically outside of Lupita Nyong'o's character honestly looks like a bunch of morons in themselves. And those kind of comedies, it worked for Shaun of the Dead. But for me, and Zombieland. But it's like, for me, zombie comedies, there's a point of being normal and falling into traps by zombies, and then there's a point of just being stupid. I'm not saying they go too far with the stupid, it's one of those where it wasn't really working for me in this film. There are some performances that I was not a fan of, mainly Josh Gad. I actually find Josh Gad very amusing in most of his roles, but I could not stand Josh Gad's character, Teddy McGiggles, in this role. Now, obviously, it was designed that way, the way his character was, but his character, he does the cliche, I'm a kid's star, but once the camera stopped rolling, I'm a huge, giant asshole. And he goes to it to the 10th degree, and it really just kind of takes you out of the film overall, because you already have one unlikable character in Dave, that it basically makes Teddy McGiggle's character just downright evil to a point that you are almost forced to like the Dave character because of how bad they make Josh Gad's character in this film. And it just didn't fit with the film overall. It didn't flow properly. And Josh Gad's character really just kind of took me out of the movie a little bit just because of how ridiculously stupid and awful his character was at such a quick, vital moment. The children actors, most of them were really good. There's one character, I don't remember what character was the name, but God, I honestly wish this kid had gotten eaten. He's basically playing the bully character, and I would say he did a good job, but there's just that point where a kid is so obnoxiously annoying and loud that it's like, you're not acting, you're just that kid. But, yeah, like, I don't wish children to die, but God, I wish this kid had gotten eaten in the movie just so I didn't have to listen to him anymore. But yeah, it was just one of those things where it's like, the army getting involved with the zombies, it didn't work. They all just seemed really stupid. It kind of felt like a whole different kind of film when they were a part of it, which just did not flow with the main story that was going on. Now, like I said, when the story is focused on the kids and Miss Caroline and Dave, the movie works very well. But as soon as they bring in the outside elements of the army and basically Josh Gad's character, that's when the movie starts to fall behind for me. And then it just was kind of a mixed bag for me. There were things I liked, but there were things I didn't like, and that's probably the reason why this got sent straight to Hulu instead of a wide release compared to the single theater, like select theater selection that it got currently. Like I said, I can see where there were some things to like in the film, but ultimately, a lot of the time, like I said, I didn't dislike it, but I also didn't really like it either. It's one of those films where it's like, I'm glad I watched it, but I probably will never ever want to watch this movie again. So, going to the overall thoughts, in terms of recommendation, I mean, if you got Hulu, feel free to check it out. Like I said, Lupita Nyong'o is great in it. It definitely introduces you to a young child actor in Diesel Terrasa. Anyway, the kid, like, he plays Felix. I really liked his character. So, for a kid at that age, we do get introduced to a brand new child actor. Like I said, I enjoyed his character overall, especially his beloved feelings towards a Star Wars character that I'm not gonna spoil. But when he does not interact, but when he does impersonate that Star Wars character, I actually really enjoyed it. But yeah, it's for if you're looking for just a silly zombie film. I mean, you can't really go wrong with Little Monsters in a sense, but definitely go in with, like, mixed expectations. Don't go in with high, because like I said, there's some things to like in this movie, there are things not to like in this movie. Other than that, that's as far as I can go as a recommendation. If this was something that was in theaters and you had to pay to go see, I definitely would not recommend the movie overall, because there are just better movies coming out and better movies in theaters right now that you could spend your money on. But because it is on Hulu, and if you do have a Hulu subscription, it's an hour and a half, you'll get through it rather quickly, but it's probably not a movie that you would see more than the first time. So that's kind of where the expectations go on this film, is that you might like it, you might dislike it, but you're definitely not going to love it. And it's definitely not something that you would probably repeat watch more than just the one time. So going to the overall score for Little Monsters, I'm going to give it a 6.9 out of 10, because like I said, I do like Lupita Nyong'o's performance in it. When they do the character change of Dave, I actually did enjoy the Dave character for the most part once it did happen. And then, like I said, the child actors, especially Diesel Torca, I'm gonna keep butchering that poor kid's name. The Felix character, I really enjoyed his character, and like I said, when the movie is doing what it's supposed to be doing, it works. It's just when it brings in the outer elements of the army, and like I said, the first half version of Dave is just awful, and then of course Josh Gad's character is atrocious. That's why it got below a 7 for me, but it's a 6.9. It's relatively close. But yeah, that's why it's got a 6.9 out of 10. I hope you guys enjoyed this review. If you guys did, go ahead and hit that like button. If you guys feel like this review is worth sharing, go ahead and hit that share button. But most importantly, don't forget to hit that subscribe button to the channel, so that way you guys stay up to date with all the latest videos that pop up on Sean's Movie Crusades. And of course, don't forget to follow us on all the social media outlets you see below. Coming up next is another film that also got released yesterday on Netflix. And for any Breaking Bad fans, El Camino, a Breaking Bad movie. That is going to be coming up next, so feel free to check that out on the channel when it pops up. And yeah, in case I don't see you, good morning, good afternoon, and good night, Movie Crusaders.